theyeshiva.net.
We are holding Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, the wide lines, 1, 2, 3, 4. Gimel Amud Aleph, you see the wide lines on the bottom of the page. Go 4 lines into the wide lines, just 2 dots. We're holding at the word Vahashta. Vahashta, the Amrit, Medino, Medina. Let's remember again, the Gemarah earlier analyzed the pasuk in the Megillah Esther. Which pasuk? At the end of the Megillah Esther, Perek Tes, we have the pasuk V'hayamim ha'ela niskarim v'nasim b'chol dor v'dor mishpacha mishpacha medino medina v'ir v'ir v'yemei apurim ha'ela lo yavrum metoich haYehudim v'zichum liyosef mizara. These days are remembered. We read the Megillah. These days are commemorated through actions in every generation and generation, family and family, right? Region and region, city and city. The Gemarah analyzed the redundancy of Medina and Medina and Ir ve'ir. Why it says Medino, Medina, Ir ve'ir. First, the Gemarah thought it's a proof to the Tana who says in our Mishnah that you only follow cities that were fortified from Yeshua ben Nun. But then, based on Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, said it works according to all the Tanai, even Rabbi Yeshua ben Karch. He says, "But v'hashta da amrit medinu medinu v'ir v'ir l'drasha." Now that you established that the pasuk in Megillah Perek Tes Chav Ches, medinu medinu ir v'ir is not just a redundancy, but it's lidrasha. Lidrasha means it comes to teach you something. Mishpacha mishpacha l'mayasa. Ask now the question, why does it say mishpacha mishpacha? Every family and family. It could say ayam melin eskarim v'nasa b'chol dor v'dor b'chol dor b'chol mishpacha. Every generation and every family. Just like you asked about Medina and Ir. Why does it say mishpacha mishpacha? That's the question of the Gemarah. It's interesting, the Gemarah doesn't ask about dor v'dor. The Gemarah only asks about mishpacha mishpacha. What about dor v'dor? What?
There is obvious. That's the whole idea.
No, it could say b'chol dor in every generation. So the Chaim Sofer Megillah Esther writes, it says Milchama Hashem ba'amalek mi dor dor, right? So the Targum Yonis ibn Uziel says it's dor of Zman Hazen, even the dor of Mashiach comes. So as Moshe says that the Medrash says in Mishlei that Kol HaMoyadim, the Rambam brings in the end of Hilchas Megillah and Chanukah, that Kol HaMoyadim, all the Moyadim are going to be misbattle, besides Purim, it says, Yimei Purim Meida, Lo Yosef Mizarim, B'chol dor v'dor. Dor v'dor is even the dor that's after Mashiach. That's how the Chaim Sofer explains the dor v'dor. Okay. We say in the Haggadah that Maskirin Yetzias Mitzrayim Afilu L'Maisa Mashiach. Yeah. Clearly you have to know what it means it's going to be in this battle. One of the 13 animamens is the Torah doesn't change. Right? So the Rishonim explained that this battle doesn't mean, the Rashba says, this battle doesn't mean it's going to be nullified. It just means like lighting a candle in the middle of the day. Going to be subsumed in the light of the day. In other words, the light of Mashiach is going to be so powerful that it's going to eclipse the light of the Moyadim. But Purim not. The spiritual intensity of the revelation at the time is going to eclipse. So what's the mishpacha? Why does it say mishpacha? Amar Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina, Lahavi, a fascinating answer. Lahavi mishpacha is kohuna levia. Every family is every Jewish family, but there's also a separate category of families. The families of the priests and the Levites. Shemevatlin avodos, they have an obligation to stop their avoid in the Beis Hamikdash ubayin l'shmaya mikra Megillah, and they come to hear the reading of the Megillah. Meaning, let's remember that Purim was instituted before the second Beis Hamikdash was built. So during the 420 years of the second Beis Hamikdash, on the day of Purim, if the community is about to read the Megillah, and the Kayanim have to shech the carbon tamid in the morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they got to do that void in the Beis HaMikdash. They have a lot to do. They have to shechta carbon tamid. They got to burn the incense. They got to light the menorah. All the avodas they have to do in the morning. This is the time to do it. Mishpacha teaches me not only a regular family, even the families of Kohanim and Leviim, the unique families that were dedicated to the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, they also stop. Mevatlin avedasan abayin l'shmaya mikra Megillah. The Kohanim and the Leviim are about to hold a concerto in the Beis Hamikdash. Kohanim are about to do the avodah. They stop the avodah. They go to hear the Megillah, and then they can go back to the Beis Hamikdash. You could say, do the Megillah afterwards. You could read a Megillah a whole day. The Chiddush is, that's the Chiddush. That's what Tosfos writes. Take a look in Tosfos. He says it. Mevatlin, you see the first Tosfos, Gimel Amar Aleph. Mevatlin Kohanim Avedosam. V'kasha, amai mevatlin. Haloi acher akri yesh hybrid shus la'avoda. What have to be mevatl for? You're not being mevatl. They're going back to do the avodah. It's not that Megillah doesn't take 12 hours. Megillah takes a half an hour, 40 minutes. I mean, you can go back. When is the time of avodah in Beis Hamikdash? The moment it becomes light. It's not that they're not going to do the avodah at all, but they're delaying the avodah. The time of the avodah lechatchila is it shouldn't be delayed. Sunrise comes, that's when they used to do the Talmud Shel Shachar. They wouldn't wait till 10 o'clock. They used to do it right away. Sunrise, today it's around 7 o'clock. They would do right away Talmud Shel Shachar. And here, they're not doing it. They're delaying it. That's called Bitul, because they're not being a mevatel. Bitul doesn't always mean obliterate. Bitul could mean obliterate the time, the schedule. They're delaying it. Frek Tosfos, v'im time of Yasav v'dasan miyad v'achach yikra Megillah levadam. Aaron said, do the avodah, and then you'll read the Megillah yourself. Nobody of the Kohanim knew how to read the Megillah. They were literate people. They were educated Jews. Like you say, make a minyan in the Beis Hamikdash. Make a minyan, you'll figure it out. V'yashleima the toiv likris imatzibur mishum dahavet tvei persumei nisa. It's better to read the Megillah with the entire community because it creates more Persumei Nisa, publicity of Hashem's miracle, and even this overrides the schedule of the Avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. That's the Gewaldige Chiddush here. That Tosfos brings out. It's not just. In other words, we all know that there's a mitzvah. You have to do the mitzvah. Mikra Megillah, you have to do the Mikra Megillah. Here the Chiddush is. They can keep everything intact, and they'll do the mitzvah, but they're going to be missing the Persumei Nisa. Even the Persumei Nisa of the Megillah overrides the schedule in the Beis Hamikdash. And they stop the avodah, they go to the minyan to hear the Megillah with the community, and then they come back to do the avodah.
So this trump's Tadir Mishem the Tadir, and
yeah.
It just seems fine. There was only one community that said Megillah, that named Megillah. They didn't have minyanim all over the place where they could land. That they could land in just right after this time.
It looks like the mitzvah is to delay.
No, you're right. You're right. If you have a bunch of small minyanim, then they could make their own. Ein chanami. You're right.
And if you didn't, I guess
you're right. Ein chanami.
But it probably would be a mitzvah for them to delay the avodah.
That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Regardless, they can't make it,
which is a DNI.
Yeah. Right. Now, most Rishonim say, what happens if there's no time for both? Let's say, sometimes crisis happens. Yeah, it's a difficult time. There's no animals, something happened. There's no time for both. What would be the halacha? So, here there's a fascinating argument. Some say that the Gemarah means only that you're mevatel the avodah if you have time to do the avodah afterwards, like Tosfos says. It's not going to be completely nullified. What happens if you don't have time for both? So, for example, it's Talmud Shel Ben Arbaim. It's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You didn't do both. You have time for Talmud Shel Ben Arbaim or Kriyas Megillah. What do? So then they would say, the Avodah Beis Hamikdash, of course, comes first because it's a biblical obligation. Megillah is a rabbinic obligation. It came from the rabbis, the prophets. Talmud Shel Ben Arbaim says in Chumash it's a biblical. That's what many of the Rishonim say. Why does it say mevatlin? Mevatlin doesn't mean really mevatlin. Megillah allows you to obliterate the Avodah. Mevatlin is, as Tosfos says, being mevatl the regular schedule. that you could do the avodah later. That's what mevatel means. That is what some Rishonim say. I just want to point out that there is an opinion, and I'm pointing it out because of its extraordinary, the extraordinary ramifications of it. There is an opinion in the Rishonim that even if there's no time for both, mevatlin means literally. The avodah gets nullified for Mikra Megillah. Fascinating opinion that's brought in Rishonim. The Ritva quotes it in the name of Yesh Mefarshim, even though he disagrees with it. And the Taz in Chaim and Hilchas Megillah, Simon Tafresh Pei Zayin, and the Bir Hagra, the Vilna Gaon, and before the Vilna Gaon, the Taz, Reb David Segel, the son-in-law of the Bach, the commentator on Shulchan Aruch, they both teach, based on some Rishonim, that this is the teich in the Gemarah. That Mikra Megillah would, of course, if you could do both, you should do both. You should allow the Chatchila. But if it's a situation where you have to choose, the Koyanim could leave the Beis HaMikdash, and that day there will not be the Avodah because it's Purim.
So it's more than a derab.
Fascinating.
So it's more than a derabbanan.
And the Taz explains this based on the idea of Yesh Koyach B'Yad Chachamim Laker Dover Min HaTorah B'Shev V'Al Tasa. Just like we don't blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah, which is Shabbos, right? Or we don't read the Megillah when Purim is on Shabbos. Or we don't shake lulav, even though halachically, biblically, you're supposed to. The Chachamim can't tell you to violate a mitzvah actively, but passively, Shev V'Al Tasa, they could. And he says the Koyach of Purim was so powerful. The koyach of Purim was so powerful, they say, go read the Megillah, even though passively, automatically, you're not going to be doing the Avodah. Again, many disagree with this. This is a big machlokes already by the Rishonim, but I just wanted to point out that opinion. That's mishpacha mishpacha. Mishpacha is every family, every Jewish family celebrates Purim. What's the second mishpacha? Even those special families, the Kohanim and the Leviim who are dedicated to something, even though they also have to celebrate Purim like everybody else. They're not excluded because of their avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. That's mishpacha. So when the Anshe Knesset Agdola wrote the Megillah, they hinted all these halachas in how they wrote the Megillah to compress and contain all the different scenarios that came up and the questions in halacha that came up. This is what Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina explained the Megillah. And the
Kippur was avodah different than every day.
Of course.
So is there any resemblance between what it says here and avodah and Kippur?
Well, Yom Kippur, Yom HaKippurim is Kippurim, but it's not Purim.
in a case when they have to choose between leaving the avodah
and the Megillah.
Yeah, is there any resemblance with the avodah and Yom Kippur?
Well, where would they have to leave on Yom Kippur? Yom Kippur, there was nothing else going on. Purim, there's a lot going on. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, and this is very consistent with what Rabbi Yehuda taught in the name of Rav. Koyanim ba'avodah. The Koyanim in their avodah, Leviim b'duchanan, and the Leviim, duchan is a platform. The Leviim would stand on the platform to sing and play music. When they would offer the karbanis, as you know, every single day in the Beis HaMikdash, people don't realize this. When they used to offer the public karbanis that have a permanent fixed time, the Leviim would stand on the duchan, on the platform. There were vocalists and there were musicians. You can have up to 120 musicians, and they would conduct a daily symphony. In the morning and in the afternoon, every karban sibur that had a fixed time. This was a fascinating thing. You had Leviim. So that's why he says, Koyanim ba'avodas, u'leviim b'duchanan, the Leviim on the platform, v'Yisrael b'ma'amadon, and the Jews, the Yisraelim in their maimed, we'll explain that in a moment. Kulon mevatlan avodasan, u'boyan l'shmoya mikra Megillah. What's Yisrael b'ma'amadon? This is a fascinating halacha that's explored at length in Meseches Tainis, and that is, we have an issue. We always have an issue. The issue is, the pasuk says in Parshas Pinchas, Tzavas b'nei Yisrael, v'amarta alehem es karboni lachmi le'isharech nichoichi, tishmeru lahakriv li b'mayadai. The daily offering of a sheep in the morning and a sheep in the afternoon, tell the Jewish people, tishmeru, they should guard, they should make sure that this carbon is offered on the time. This means that the Torah is clearly saying, Daber el b'nei Yisrael, Tzavas b'nei Yisrael, the Jewish people have to guard the carbon. So that means every single Jew, every morning and every afternoon, has to come to the Beis HaMikdash. So what happens to the economy in Eretz Yisrael? What happens to the homes? This does not make sense. You can have every Jew. Where's the Beis HaMikdash going to fit every single Jew? So everybody should quit everything. We have our problem. So therefore, what did they do about this? So they had it's impossible. It doesn't make sense. When you bring your own carbon, you could come and accompany it, but here's a carbon sibur, so the whole Klal Yisrael has to accompany it. How are you supposed to do this? Nobody will ever get anything done. Plus, the Beis Hamikdash can't even contain such crowds every single day. So the first prophets, Shmuel and David, instituted something called Maimed, Anshe Maimed, and that is representatives of the Jewish people. Representatives of the Jewish people, Erlich Yidin Yirei Chet, and they were the shluchim of the Jewish people to stand and protect and guard and make sure the Karbonis Tzibur are done. They're called Anshe Maimed. They were split up into 24 groups, just like the Kohanim and the Leviim were split up into 24 groups. There's 53 weeks during the year, so every single group, every Maimed got 1 week. This was your week, and you would come to Yerushalayim, and you would stand by the Karbonos. These were the representatives of the Yisraelim who usually had 1 week or 2 weeks during the year. Then you went back to your thing. This was their avodah. They would go into the Beis Hamikdash and they would stand there every day during the avodah of the Karban Sibur. There were those of the Maimed who lived far from Yerushalayim, and they would gather in their shuls on their week. They would fast. They would do special prayers. They basically davened that the Karbonos should be accepted in the right, appropriate way. So Ajman was split up in two: those who stood there physically and those who stood there spiritually. Very interesting. So that's what he means. Yisrael b'ma'amadon. The Yisraelim who are there by the carbon. Kulam mevatlin aveidasin u'boin l'shmoya mikra Megillah. Everybody leaves the avodah and comes to hear mikra Megillah. U'boin l'shmoya mikra Megillah. They come to hear.
Only Israel or just Kohanim?
No, he adds Yisrael. Rabbi Yossi ber Chanina didn't add Yisrael when he said it because he was explaining mishpacha. But Rabbi Yehuda was just saying a halachas. He includes everybody. Rabbi Yossi didn't say Yisraelim because he was explaining mishpacha is Kohanim and Leviim. No, the first mishpacha is to just tell you the halacha that every Jewish family celebrates Purim. Purim is a time of mishpacha. The second mishpacha is, there are those mishpachas you would think they're out of the equation because they have a duty to the Beis Hamikdash. The Kohanim and the Leviim. Not all the Kohanim and the Leviim, but plenty of them are serving. That's the Chiddush. They too are obligated. Tanya Nami Hachi, we also have a brayso that supports this. Kohanim b'avedasim, Leviim b'duchani, Yisrael b'mamadam, kulam b'vatlan avedasim, aboyin l'shmoya mikra Megillah. Mikan. No, the braysos didn't come from Har Sinai. The braysos came from the Tanoim. Yeah. The braysos are similar to Mishnahs. They are the traditions of the Tanoim. The difference is, brayso is a combination of two words. Bar, Yesa. It came from the outside. The Mishnah are those ideas that were put into the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Anasi and his colleagues, a lot of it was left out. And those are the braysos. The other compositions of texts and traditions and arguments were put into the brayso. They don't have the same authority like the Mishnah, but nonetheless, they are a very significant source of truths, of halachic traditions that come from the same era and were authored by Rabbi and Rabbi. So when a brayso says something, it's a very strong support. So it's not just the Rav said it, the brayso supports it.
Yes, asking deep questions also of how do we have a Mishnah Megillah? If it came from Har Sinai.
Well, Mishnayos is not from Har Sinai. Mishnayos is from the Tanoim. The question is how the Tanoim developed any teaching. It's of course based on Har Sinai, but this is a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. Says the Gemarah Mikan, from this lesson, from this directive, some chushal beis Rebbe. The sages at the house of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, the editor of the Mishnah, they got a support for the following idea. Shemevatlan Talmud Torah boyin l'shmoya mikra Megillah. From this, they developed another halacha. You could be mevatel the learning of Torah, stop the learning of Torah, and come to hear. You have to come to hear the reading of the Megillah. Kal v'chaymer me avoida. With a kal v'chaymer from avoida in the Beis Hamikdash. Ma avoida sheichamura mevatlinon. Talmud Torah like kol shekain. Ma dagda avoida in the Beis Hamikdash with is so stringent. Nonetheless, we taught that you could stop it and interrupt it in order to go hear the Megillah. Certainly, learning Torah. Person is learning Torah, he must interrupt it in order to go hear the Megillah. This is what the Chachamim of Beis Rebbe taught us. Now this is a fascinating halacha, because you ask a question, you should ask a question like many Acharayim ask. Megillah is also Torah. What do you mean, Vatl Talmud Torah, Megillah? Megillah is not Torah. Megillah is one of the 24 Svarim of Tanakh. If somebody goes to learn Sefer Yehoshua, Sefer Yirmiyah, Sefer Shoftim, Sefer Koheles, Eicha, they're learning Torah. What do you mean? It's part of Torah. And how many drushes of Chazal are there on Megillah? Al pi Pshat, al pi Remez, al pi Drush, al pi Soid. It's one of the Chavdalet Kisvei HaKodesh. The Gemarah says, as I called Blutika hate, Mevatlan Talmud Torah, Boilish Megillah, as though Megillah has nothing to do with Torah. Fascinating question. I'll tell you what I heard myself from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He said, from here you learn that Bitul Torah doesn't just mean you're not learning. It means you're learning superficially when you could learn in depth. When you could use your whole mind and learn in depth and you're learning superficially, that's already called Bitul Torah is relative. When a person usually reads the Megillah, the Torah is going fast, right? You want to hear every word. So of course you're learning. But because you're learning to your full capacity of your mind and your heart and your mental space, that's already called Bitul Torah. That's what I heard from the Lubavitcher Rebbe myself at Fabrengen. The Gemarah calls that Bitul Torah. Others say, the Aruch HaShulchan I saw says, he says it means balabatish. It means you have to stop, close the Gemarah, go to Shul. That's the Bitul. The Bitul Torah is not the hearing the Megillah. The Bitul Torah is the time till the Baal Kodesh comes. He got stuck in traffic. He's late, right? You don't have a place. You're fighting for a Megillah. Whatever it is, that's the Bitul Torah, not the Bitul Torah of the Megillah. That's another way of learning it. If you could. Drinking a coffee, Bill.
If you're at this level, that I do in live and I don't learn that minute in Bitul Torah.
What if you drink it in order to learn better?
Well, a person needs to eat, a person needs to drink, a person needs to sleep. There's mitzvahs that we do, and then if you have a family, you have a mitzvah to support your family. That's also a mitzvah. Why taking a walk? A person, just like a person goes to a doctor, they want to be healthy. A person exercises, they take a walk. Huh? It's a Super Bowl. You want to talk about the Super Bowl?
Still, as long as you don't.
As long as you have time, you go onto the yeshiva.net and you listen to my message, you're good. Maybe that's machsheret. I don't know.
It seems that if you have free time and you could learn and you don't, that is being a Bible Torah, and I find it very difficult. That the concept that every waking moment you must.
I hear you. You're not the only one. Oh, so you say you also have to learn Pekiyas, halacha. You can't just learn iyun. You're right, ain't a chanami. But Bikra Megillah is not halacha. It's not halacha, right? So that's why the Gemarah calls it Bitul. I saw in the Mesifta Gemarah, he brings this word from Rabbi Chaim Brisker. Actually, Rabbi Chaim said that from here, I heard it from the Rebbe, but he said he brings from Rabbi Chaim Brisker a tradition that he said that also the Bitul Torah is that you're not using your full capacity of Amka. So it's not just you're learning. You have to learn with your whole potential, with all your koiches, all your resources, all your faculties, the whole brain. Huh? Okay, listen. Everybody has to translate that into their life. Huh? What? Which Tosfos? Oh, Bitul doesn't mean you obliterate it. Bitul means it's not the same. It's not Tosfos about the schedule. Yeah. I just want to bavara one thing, and that is the Gemarah says here, "Mikan samchu beis Rabbi shem vadam telling was a guilt." They needed a big mucker, and they got it from the avodah that you're allowed to stop learning. Not only allowed, you have to stop learning in order to go here or hear the Megillah. The Rishonim ask on this. We have a klal about all mitzvahs. What about everything else? Forget Mikra Megillah. Let's say it's Rosh Hashanah, and I'm learning Torah, and they're blowing shows. They're sorry, I'm learning Torah. Shalach Manas, or lighting Hanukkah candles. I mean, this is concept, putting on tefillin. I'm learning Torah. So we have a klal, and the klal is, it's a famous Gemarah in Moed Katan. The Gemarah tells us that mitzvah she'i ef shalasas ayidei acherim mevatl Talmud Torah. A mitzvah that you cannot do through somebody else. Yeah, I have to do b'dikas chametz. I don't say, I'm learning. Of course, if I can appoint a shliach, yeah, I need a sukkah for sukkahs. Yeah, you have to stop learning and build your sukkah. I mean, that's what you do. Mitzvah she'i ef shalasas ayidei acherim. If it's a mitzvah that you have to do yourself, or you can do it through somebody else, mevatl Talmud Torah. You're mevatl Talmud Torah for it. That's the maskana and that's the halacha. So Megillah is not a mitzvah I could do through somebody else. I can't tell you, here, I'm making you a shliach to hear the Megillah from me. Just like I can't tell you, I'm making you a shliach to eat matzah from me. I can make you a shliach to give truma. I can make you a shliach to give tzedakah. I can make you a shliach for shalach manas. But I can't make you a shliach to hear the Megillah. I have to hear the Megillah myself. So what do we need? A raya from the avodah that mevatel Talmud Torah lishmaya mikra Megillah. This is a klal that the Gemarah learns out of Ma'at Katan about every single mitzvah that you cannot do through somebody else. You're mevatel Talmud Torah for that mitzvah. Even great lamdim who learn a whole day, that's what they do. They're mevatel Talmud Torah for all these mitzvahs. So why did the Beis Rebbe have to learn this from the avodah? So the Netziv asks this question. The Netziv, the Rosh Hashiva of Alozhin, has a sefer called Hamek She'ela on the She'iltos of Rabbi Chaim. She'ilta B'Chai Gaon is one of the great svarim of the Gaonim, and the Netziv wrote a pirush on the She'ilta. It's called Hamek She'ela, and in Parshas Vayechi he asks this, and he says the answer is based on the Ran that the din of mevatel Talmud Torah for the Mikra Megillah has a chiddush. It means even though you could read the Megillah in your house, and that's going to cause less Bitul Torah. Of course you have to read the Megillah, but the question is, do I have to go to Shul, right? And I have to find parking. The Netziv doesn't add that. And I have to go into the oilam, and I have to wait, and it's going to take time, and it's going to be a tircha to go there and go home. That's going to be an extra Bitul Torah, not for Megillah, for the Persumei Nisa, for the Berayvam Hadras Melech. That's a chiddush. Because usually we say mevatel Talmud Torah to do the mitzvah. Here it's not to do the mitzvah. You can do the mitzvah in your house. It's to do the mitzvah with the power of the community. Berayvam Hadras Melech, you would think for this, you're not mevatel Torah. That's what they learned from Beis Rebbe, that the same was by the avodah. The avodah, they can also read the Megillah in the Beis HaMikdash. But what does Tosfos say? They leave the avodah to read it b'tzibur. That's the chiddush. How the Netziv explains the chiddush of this Gemarah. I just wanted to mention that. Another similar answer is in the Sefer Beis Yitzchak, and he says that based on what Tosfos says with the avodah, that you don't have to be mevatel the avodah. What it means is that the Megillah precedes the avodah in time. So if you're doing the avodah at 6, you could do the avodah at 8 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock and do the Megillah first. It precedes it in time. That's what the Tosfos says, and other Rishonim also say this. The Ritva says it, the Rashba says it. So he says, by Torah it's the same thing. That if the tzibur is reading now, I stop the learning for the Megillah, right? Even though learn now and you could read the Megillah later, you say, no, in time, the Megillah comes first. And this they learned from the Avodah. The fact that you have to interrupt learning and do the Megillah, that we know. The Chiddush here is that in time, Megillah comes first. Just like by the Avodah, that you're mevatel the Avodah, you do the Megillah right now in order to do it with the community, and then you'll do the Avodah later. In other words, when it comes to time, the Megillah precedes the Avodah and precedes Talmud Torah. You're saying the Torah from now, you're not going to be able to do. You say the Avodah, you're asking an interesting shaila. You're saying, how could they learn it from the Avodah? By the Avodah, you're not losing the Avodah. You'll do it later. By Torah, the Torah from now, there's no later. There's no later. The chiyuv is now. That's an interesting question. The Avodah, you're not losing anything. You're just delaying it. You're going to do the carbon in an hour. Here, you're not just learning in an hour. The learning in an hour is a different creature. No. The avodah, you have to bring a carbon talmud. You brought the carbon talmud. You don't have to bring 100 carbon talmuds a day. But Torah, they bring here that the Beis Ephraim, Shal Beis Ephraim, he got a question from Rabbi Yaakov Landau, was the son of the Noida B'Yehuda. The Noida B'Yehuda was the Rav of Prague, Rabbi Cheskel Landau. He had a son, Rabbi Yaakov Landau. And he wrote a letter to the Beis Ephraim. Why is Megillah called Bitul Torah, like we said before? It's also Torah. So Rabbi Yaakov Landau himself said, because it's Torah, but to go to the Beis Medrash, that's the Bitul Torah, go back and forth. The Beis Ephraim says that Megillas Esther is not considered Torah. Why? Because when the Chachamim decided to write it, it wasn't to write it as other Nevi'im and Ksuvim to learn, just to read it on Purim. But when you learn it, it's not a mitzvah of Talmud Torah, it's just mitzvah of Kriyas HaMegillah. The Avnei Nezer says, Ein lahamin shedvarim elu yatsu mipi oisoi tzaddik habeis Ephraim. I can't believe that the Tzaddik Beis Ephraim said these words, that that Megillah Esther, when you read it, it's not called Torah, it's just a mitzvah of Kriyas HaMegillah. V'chibechinam tarchu chazal bali hashas shapirshu kol divrei HaMegillah lefi dvarav hayukol yagiyim reik chas v'shalom. Basically, all the chazal and all the medrashim explained the Megillah, and according to him, it was all in vain, it's worthless, because it's not considered Torah. He says that's ridiculous. And who was matter to all the chazal to stop learning and to spend so much time explaining the Megillah when it's all Bitul Torah? They're doing Bitul Torah by discussing the Megillah Esther. Somebody says, I can't believe that the base Ephraim says this. They bring also from Rabbi Yeshua Leib Diskin, was the Brisker Rav, Rabbi Yeshua Leib Diskin, the Sarif of Brisk. This is an interesting Litvish Rav. He says that there's 3 words in the Megillah that nobody understands. And when you say those 3 words, it's Bitul Torah, because nobody knows what it means. Ha-chashtranim b'nei haramachim. Ha-chashtranim b'nei haramachim. Nobody knows what it means. B'shul Leib Diskin says those 3 words, Bitul Torah is those 3 words. The rest of the Megillah is not Bitul Torah. That's what the Gemarah means. And because the Magen Avram says in Orach Chaim that if you learn and you don't understand, it's not called limud. However, the problem with this Rabbi Shul Leib Diskin is the Shulchan Aruch Harav, the Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya says clearly in Hilchos Talmud Torah, the Torah shebiksav, even if you don't understand, it's considered Torah, right? Even an Amaretz who gets an Aliyah, makes a Birchas HaTorah, Shabachabana Mikol Amim Naslonas Torah, even if he doesn't have people get an Aliyah, they don't understand. Why? Because Torah Shabal Peh, if you don't understand, it's not called Limud HaTorah. Torah shebiksav, the reading of the letters, there's such a kedusha in the letters itself, that itself is considered Torah. It's based on a Magen Avram. So that would be a different opinion versus Rabbi Yeshua Leib Diskin, but quite an interesting observation. The 3 words is Bitul Torah, you see? Achashtronim b'nei haramochim. This purim, you'll remember it. It's in the Megillah. He didn't make it up. I could show you. I'll show you after. But it's there. That's why, you see, that was your Bitul Torah. You didn't understand it. Achashtronim b'nei haramachim. Yeah, Tehillim is also, yeah. The Gemarah says, David HaMelech asked, that Tehillim should be like Negoyim v'Ahalos. David HaMelech asked that saying Tehillim, huh? That's where Chaim Volozhiner says, Nefesh HaChaim. Are you sure about that? Okay. I'm saying it's an interesting question. Did Hashem affirm what David HaMelech said or not? I know what the Nefesh HaChaim says, but it's an interesting question. Says the Gemarah, your question was a good question. Noted. We'll get to it. Frag the Gemarah, you heard this question. How could you compare the Avodah Talmud Torah? V'avodah chamurim mit Talmud Torah?
If you say so, you can never do the avodah.
Huh?
If you say so, you can never do the avodah.
No, he's saying you push over the Avodah, I understand. Meila like the opinion in the Rishonim that you could be mevatel the Avodah completely. It's a Gevaldik Raya. But according to the Rishonim who say, not like the Ritva, the Taz, or the Gra, that you can't be Mevatel, you could just delay the Avodah, then how could you compare to Talmud Torah where you're completely being Mevatel these 10 minutes, or half an hour, I'm not learning?
Where does the Baal HaTanya say that it's only on Torah?
You want to know the Makar? You want to look it up? Hilchos Talmud Torah. He has a sefer called Hilchos Talmud Torah. Today it's already part of the Shulchan Aruch. It was actually his first chibur. Hilchos Talmud Torah, Perek Beis. Hilchos Talmud Torah Perek Beis, Halacha Yud Beis and Halacha Yud Gimel, and the source is Magen Avram or Chaim, I believe Siman Nun, if I'm not mistaken, Siman Nun and Magen Avram, which is in regular Shulchan Aruch. Okay, that's something else. The Shalos says that when you don't have a headspace, or you don't have Svarim, you could just say the Masechtas, the names, and even the names of the Svarim. Okay, that's a separate in. Frag the Gemarah v'avodah chamurim mit Talmud Torah. Really? They made a raya from Avodah because Avodah is much more serious than Talmud Torah. If you could be Mevatel Avodah from Megillah, you could certainly be Mevatel Talmud Torah. Vaksiv, we have the pasuk in Yehoshua, Vayihi b'Yos Yehoshua b'Yericha, Yehoshua chapter 5. Yehoshua, Joshua brings the Jewish people into Eretz Yisrael. They fight the wars. They're fighting the wars. One of the big ones is Yericha. Yeshua was in Yericha. It's actually the outskirts of Yericha. He picks up his eyes and he sees a man is standing in front of Yehoshua. I'm just going to read the whole pasuk. The man has a sword in his stretched out hand. Yeshua comes over to this person. This is all from the pasuk. Yeshua Perek Hey pasuk Yud Gimel Yadalit, and he says, "Halanu ata im litzarenu." Are you one of ours, or are you one of our enemies? Did you come here to give us tsaris, tsarenu, you're one of our foes, or you're one of ours? That's what he asks the man who has the sword as Yehoshua is standing at the outskirts of Yericho, picking up his eyes and seeing a man with a sword. Vayomer, the man answers, I'm just going to read the end of the pasuk, Loi, ki ani sar tzva Hashem. I am a minister in God's army. Ata basi, I came now. Those are the key words. Ata basi, I came now. Really? You didn't come a year ago? I came now. And Yeshua falls on his face. Vayishtachu, the Gemarah says, Vayishtachu la'apov, he falls on his face and he bows down to this man who introduced himself as an angel or a minister in God's legions, God's troops. Tzivos Hashem. Okay. What's the meaning of this conversation here? The man says, I came now. Well, obviously you came now. I didn't see you a year ago. I didn't see you an hour ago. You came now. Atabas. But before, the Gemarah is going to get into that. The Gemarah asks a simple question. How is it that Yeshua just bows down to this man? Yeshua ben Levi. It's forbidden for a man to give shalom, to greet and say shalom to his friend in the middle of the night, because we're afraid that the person may be a shade. Remember, it's nighttime, it's pitch dark, you can't recognize it. Maybe he's a shade. And shalom is a name of Hashem, and you're not supposed to use the name of Hashem on a shade, on a mazik. So how can Yeshua bow down in the middle of the night to a person? Because if it's a shade, it's like he's bowing down to Avodah Zarah. What does this mean? Let's take a look in Tosfos. Tosfos says, Chashin and Shem Shadhu. So you're not allowed to greet anybody at night. Like, what does this mean? You're not allowed to say hi to anybody at night. So Tosfos clarifies this very nicely, and he says, Pirush Riva. The Riva says, the dafke chutz le'yir heiche de shchichim mazignim basada balayla. This is only outside of the city. If you're in a field at night, a place where they used to have mazikim, they used to have these spiritual these types of demons, you're not allowed to say shalom. Yeshua was doing a siege. He was surrounding Jericho in a field far from the camp of the Jewish people. So he was alone. You're going at night, even if it's pitch dark, but it's a place where people are. You could say shalom to anybody. If not, Adam Shamar Lano Balayla Bir Kisfu Getli Ishti Hechi Kasvina Necho Shemashedhu. If somebody tells people at night, write a get for my wife, and the halacha is that you could become a shliach for the husband and prepare a get for the wife, how could you? Maybe he's a shed who's appearing in the image of the husband. That's what shedim can do. We should not write a get until we see a shadow of a shadow. A shadow of a shadow. The Gemarah says that if somebody is in a pit, a very deep pit, and you can't get him out, and he says, whoever hears my voice, this is who I am, this is where I come from, this is my wife, this is where she comes from, write a get. You're allowed to write a get and divorce. The wife doesn't have to remain, she doesn't have to be an almana or an aguna. She's a divorced lady. One says maybe he's a shed. So he says, you see bevua de bevua, the shadow of the shadow. Because shadim have one shadow, they don't have the shadow of a shadow. Bevua de bevua leslu. So Tosfos says, here too, every person who says write a get, you have to see the shadow of their shadow. Shadow of their shadow. A person is nefesh ruach neshama, the shadow is chaya, the shadow of the shadow is yichida, and that shadim don't have. So in any case, it's obvious that this is not the halacha, and therefore v'lei ashkechan the parich lei Gemarah ela gabe misha hushlach but berbe perik eskabel gittin daf samach. But regularly we don't assume that a person is a shade even at night in the city. But the problem is Yeshua is at night alone in the field. How do you bow down to somebody who may be a shed? That's the question. Just like you're not allowed to say shalom, you're certainly not allowed to bow down to them. How do we know this was at night? We know it's at night because Yeshua didn't know who he is. Is he one of ours or is he one of our foes? Meaning he couldn't see him. So we know that it was at night. And for the Gemarah Shaini Hasam, it's different. The Amar Lei ki ani sar tzva Hashem. The man says, I belong to God's army. The Dilma Meshakri, maybe he's lying. The Loi Gemiri, we have a tradition, the Loi Mafki Shem Shamayim Levatala. Shadim will not express God's name in vain. If he said Sar Tzva Hashem, Hashem's name, he was not a shade, and therefore Yeshua could bow down to him because he is not a shed. Now you may ask a question. Let's say he's not a shed. He's God's angel. You're allowed to bow down to an angel? The pasuk says in Aseres HaDibros, next week's parsha, you're not allowed to make an image even in heaven. We learned in Masechta Rosh Hashanah Daf Chav Daled that even malachim, you're not allowed to make an image of a malach, and you're not allowed to bow down to a malach. Goes even on images of heaven, meaning even angels you're not allowed to bow down to. So let's say he's not a shed. Let's say he's a malach. How is Yeshua allowed to bow down to him? So the Rabbeinu Menachem of Rekanti, he says something fascinating. He says, when a malach dresses up like a person, you're allowed to bow down to him. It's not a problem. Just like you're allowed to bow down to any person who doesn't make himself avodah zarah, and you're not bowing down to him to accept him as a god. Yaakov Avinu bowed down to Yosef. Why? Because he was the prime minister of Egypt. You bow down to a king. You bow down to a queen. You bow down to a prominent person. It's not avodah zarah. It's a sign of respect. It's a sign of deference. It's a sign of awe. It's a sign of reverence. It's not, you're not accepting him as a god, and he's not making himself as a god. So the moment the malach dresses up like a person, out of respect to a person, you could bow down to them. That's not avodah zarah. The problem is when he doesn't make himself as a person, he makes himself as a god. Then you're not allowed to bow down to him. You understand? It has a lot of important ramifications. You make yourself as a person and you're bowing down out of respect, that's perfectly permitted. When you make yourself as a god, that's what you want. I want you to bow down to me as a god. That's avodah zarah. This malach dressed up like a person, Yeshua shows respect. Sar tzva Hashem, I show respect. You're an emissary of God, I bow down to you. That's not avodah zarah. Lo yishtachef elahem, as a malach who's making himself as a substitute of God, that's the problem of lo yishtachef elahem. Yeah, he couldn't bow down to Haman. Yeah. To bow down to a king, on the contrary, covered Malchus. Yeah. Yaakov comes to Paray. Yaakov, even his son Yosef, he bows down. You have the concept of Vayishtachu. Even Hashem told Moshe to show covet to Paray. Cholkin covered Lamalchus. Why? As a king, as a prominent person, we bow down. We don't have a problem with that. When the king turns himself into a god, then we have a problem with it. In other words, he becomes the god. That's avodah zarah. Very fascinating ha'ara of the Rikanti in Bereshis. It was at night. That's what the Gemarah says. It was at night. If it was pitch black, how he saw the sword.
There is no such thing as pitch dark. There is always photons flying, and he could see reflection from the sword.
Now, Amaloi, the Malach tells Yeshua, fascinatingly, this man tells Yeshua, Emesh bitaltem tomit shel ben harbayim. Last night, yesterday in the evening, in the afternoon, you guys did not bring the tomit shel ben harbayim. They were trying to destroy Yericho, to conquer Yericho, and they made an ambush on Yericho. And he said, already in the evening, they went there. He said there was no need for it. You should have done the tomit shel ben harbayim. He's telling Yeshua, V'achshav bitaltem Talmud Torah. And now it's night, and you're not learning. And there's no need for this. Why? Because it's not a time of war. You could be learning Torah. What is he telling him? Let's see Rashi. Emesh bitaltem. Emesh bitaltem. It's the right column, the third Rashi from the bottom, or fourth Rashi from the bottom. Bitshuva she'shivay atabossi. Rashi says, how did the Chazal get to this? When Yeshua asked him, who are you? And he said, Atabossi, I came now. Obviously you came now. From the words Ata, you know what he said in the beginning. Shimon b'shnei dvarim. He found Yeshua guilty in two things. Yesterday you could have done the Tamid and you didn't. There's no war at night. Why did you have to put an ambush on the city at night and therefore go away from the Mishkan and not do the carbon Talmud Shel Ben Arbayim? The day is over. Before sunset, go chap Talmud Shel Ben Arbayim. There was no excuse. War aher, war ahin. You have to do the Talmud Shel Ben Arbayim. And now I have another taina. It's at night. You're not fighting. Why aren't you learning? Why aren't you learning at night? Atabossi, from the fact that he says Atabossi, two things. Omar Lo Yeshua says, Al Eza Mehen Basa. Which one did you really come for? The lack of the Talmud or the Bitul Torah? Omar Lo Ata Basi. I came for now. Now it's the middle of the night. Now you can't bring the Talmud Shabbein Arbayim. A carbon you can only bring by day. B'yoyim tzavois. I'm coming for now. The Bitul Torah. Miyad. What happens? Vayolin Yeshua Ba'layla Hu B'tzoicha Emek. Gemarah here combines two psukim. It says right away, Vayolin Yeshua Ba'layla Hu B'tzoicha Am. Yeshua Perik Ches. Yeshua dwelled there in middle among the nation. Yeshua dwelled there among the nation. Then after that it says Vayelech Yeshua B'layla Hu B'tzoicha Emek. B'tzoicha Emek. Right after this, there was a war in Ai, and Yeshua dwells b'soicha emek. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, melamed shalom ba'oimka shel halacha. Vayolen Yeshua b'toicha emek means when Yeshua heard what the Malach said, the next time they went to war in Ai, he spent the night b'toicha emek. What's b'toicha emek? In the depth. Ba'oimka shel halacha. He spent the night in the depth of learning, in the depth of halacha. That's what happens. So when the Malach comes as Ata Basi, it means he came also for, so there was another issue I could have come. What was the other issue? Rashi says he had the issue with Talmud Shalbein Arbayim, and he had a second issue with Torah. He said, which one did you come for? Torah. Yeshua learned from this, and the next situation, he spends the night before war, Ba'oimka shel halacha. So now imagine the scene. Imagine the scene of what a Jewish army looked like and the leader of a Jewish army looked like. Tomorrow morning at sunrise, they're going to mobilize the troops to fight a very serious war. But the night before, he's lon ba'imka shel halacha.
From here, we learn that we shouldn't serve in the army. It's not just kidding.
No, it had a big hashpah, obviously, on David and Melech, and in Chizkiah, right? Chizkiah went to sleep, right?
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. That, but
It's fascinating. That's what they did the night before.
it had nothing to do with them.
L'chayra, yeah, but war is a culture. You're in a state of war. It's a state of violence. Who could learn? Who could think? The night before is Imka shel halacha. And because of that, the war is a different type of war. You fight a different type of war. It's with a different energy, a different composure. Loi b'chayil v'loi b'chayil. Kim beruchi amar Hashem tzvayis. Kim beruchi amar Hashem tzvayis. Hashem tells Moshe, speak to the rock. You're about to go into Eretz Yisrael. In the midbar was miracles. In Eretz Yisrael, it's going to be more of a natural phenomenon. Not going to be the man and the well of Miriam and the clouds of glory. So Moshe speak to the rock. Moshe hits the rock. Now there's a new avodah. You want water, you got to hit the rock. He says, no, loy b'chayil v'loy b'koyach ki im beruchi amar Hashem tzvayis. Hakol kol Yaakov. So melamed shalom b'imka shel halacha, that happens the night before. I do want to take a look in Tosfos. Emesh bitaltem Talmud shel ben arbayim. So over there, they didn't do the Talmud at all. But take a look in Tosfos. Emesh bitaltem Talmud shel ben arbayim.
But isn't it like a nefesh durch?
Oh, good. Frek Tosfos, kasha. Amai bitlu. Bishlei metalmud Torah bitlu lefi shoyitzarim alir kol Yisrael. I understand Talmud Torah, they were in a siege on Yericho. When you're in the middle of a siege, you can't give a shir in Babakama. I understand. The Kohanim and the Levium usually didn't go to war. So why were they makriv the Talmud? The Aron would go to war. And the Kohanim all came to carry the Aron. So therefore, they didn't do the Talmud Shabbein Arbayim. Where do you have in the pasuk a proof to this idea? The Gemarah says they will mavatal these two. It doesn't say it anywhere. It just says the Malach said, I came now. So Rashi says, I came now, meaning I could have come also last night. I could have come yesterday in the afternoon. But where do you get this whole idea that they will mavatal the Talmud, mavatal Torah? The pasuk says, Yeshua said, Halanu ata im litzarenu. And he said, ata basi. So Taisv says, "V'yesh loyma dahachi pirusha." This is how the Chazal typed it. Midi kamer halanu ata. Do you belong to us? Hachi kamer. B'shvit Talmud Torah basa d'ksiv Torah tziva lanu im litzarenu b'shvil karbonis shemaginim aleinu mitzarenu. Halanu ata im litzarenu means, did you come because of lanu, because of Torah tziva lanu Moshe? Or litzarenu, you came because of the karbonas that we did not do, because they protect us from our foes. Halanu atmzinu is not, do you belong to us or are you our foe? Yeshua sends who he is. He wants to know if he came for lanu or he came for litzarenu. Rashi learns it from Ata. Tosfos learns the details from litzarenu. Ata basi, he answered Ata. What's Ata? What's the answer? According to Rashi, I came for the issue now. According to Tosfos, Pirush Rivon, Al Talmud Torah Basi, Diksiv Beiva Ata Kisvu Lechem Es Ashira Hazais. On Torah it says, now you should write the song of Torah. Ata Basi, I came for the Lanu, I came for the Ata. I came for the Ata. That's what I came for. So therefore, as a result of this, Yehoshua, the next war is Lon Ba'im Kashal Halacha. Tosfos says another fascinating thing. The next Tosfos Gimel Amid Beis. This is a tremendous lesson in life. Tosfos says there was a version in the Gemarah, Kol's man sheshchina va'aron shruin shalei b'kaimen asurin b'tash b'shamita. Loi garas lehacha. There's a version of some people that says, as long as the Shechina and the Aron are not in the right place in the Mishkan, the Jews don't have intimacy. It's not part of the text here. The Mashayach Khan. Whoever said this, that the Malach spoke about this, that there was no intimacy. In Erev and Daf Samach Gimel, over there, it does belong there. The Ka'amar Shenena She'Yeshua Shebitul Yisnom Periyavidivya. It says there that Yeshua was punished because he caused the Jewish people not to have relations. Because what happens? Because whenever the Aron and the Shechina are away from the Mishkan, they usually they weren't supposed to have Tashma Shamita intimacy. So the Malach told them that night they didn't bring the Aron back to the Mishkan in Gilgal because they were around the city of Yericho, so they wanted to have the Aron there. But that night, the husbands weren't together with the wives, and they were mavatal from Pirya Verivya. So Tosfos says it's a true Inyan that happened, but that's not the discussion here in Gemarah, because here we're just discussing the concept of Torah. It's a contradiction. Here we're talking about Karbonis and Torah and their Pirya Verivya. Yeshleima de Mashenena Shaloi Hayoloi Ben Zachar Hayal Shabitul Yisrael Mitashmish Mida Keneged Mida Avol Shar Einish Bolei Bitul Torah. Yeshua never had a male child. He never had a successor. It's called Yeshua bin Nun. That's because he took away tashmish, intimacy, from the Jewish people. So midda keneged midda. It says nun b'nai Yeshua b'nai. Yeshua never had a son. But the fact that he came with a sword, that had to do with Bitul Torah. So it's a separate inyan that's not negeya here, that Yeshua also that night caused the Jewish people not to have intimacy. And even one night, taking away husbands from their wives or wives from their husbands is a very, very serious thing. So you see here a fascinating thing. The night before war, Oim Kashal Halacha. But to take away couples and to interrupt even one night is also a very serious thing that had tremendous consequences. So now let's just finish the discussion. Where does all of this come in here?
Isn't it when they go to the war, the wives?
We're talking about, yeah, not to take the wives to war, but they could have brought the Aron back, so anybody who could be home, right? Reb Shmuel Barunya said, first line, Gadol Talmud Torah Yosem Akravas Tmidin. What do you see from here? Talmud Torah is greater than even the Talmud. She'anama Atabasi. Because the Malach said, I came for now, not for the Talmud Shal Bein Arbayim, but for the lack of Torah. No. Rabbi told us, the Chacham is that Tmidin, that the Avodah is bigger than Torah. So if you could stop the Avodah for the Megillah, certainly you could be Mavatal Torah. What do we see from here? From this tradition that we have here, the story of Yeshua, we see Fakir Talmud Torah is much greater. That's why the Malach came with Talmud Torah. So the source of the Chachamim of Beis Rabbi is refuted by this tradition. This is like Kasha, no contradiction. Hadi Rabim, Hadi Yachid. From Yeshua, we learn that Talmud Torah is greater than the Avodah. It's the Rabbim. Talmud Torah of the Rabbim, meaning the whole Klal Yisrael was in a siege and not learning Torah. By Rebbe, when he says the Avodah is greater than Talmud Torah, he's talking about Talmud Torah of a Yachid, not the whole Torah. No, Talmud Torah of the whole Klal Yisrael learning, that's greater than the Avodah. That's what the Malach was disturbed. Here we're talking about the Talmud Torah of an individual, even if it is a large group of individuals, like the Chachmei Beis Rebbe who are learning. They have to stop their learning to hear the Megillah, and they learn it from the Avodah of the Beis Hamikdash. But if you would have Klal Yisrael learning, then it would be much greater than the Avodah of the Beis Hamikdash. That's true. That's why the Malach says that Atabasi. But here we're not talking about the whole Klal Yisrael learning together. We're talking about a group of people. It's still considered a Yachid, and therefore it's not like the carbon. The Talmud is more significant, and if you could be Mavatal for the Avodah, you're for sure Mavatal for Talmud Torah. That's what Rabbi said.
They would have ganz Klal Yisrael learn together.
That's what it looked like. Yeshua could teach them.
No, it looks like none of them were learning, including Rabbi Yeshua.
Including Yeshua ben Nun. Yeah. It was Talmud Torah de Rabbim. That's what he says. Rashi says, Ha de Rabbim. The first Rashi, the Hasam Kol Yisrael have. So the Gemarah now just asks one question and then answers it, and we'll finish with that.
What's the Rashi saying?
Ha de Rabbim, the Hasam Kol Yisrael have. By Yeshua was the whole Jewish people that were not learning. Everybody was not learning. So that's much more significant than the Avodah. You're saying when nobody is learning, then even one Yachid is bigger than the Avodah. That's what you're teaching. Not that Kol Yisrael are learning. Perhaps. Frag the Gemarah, the Yachid Kal, and a Talmud Torah of a Yachid is more lenient than Purim, and you mevatel it for the Megillah. Vatnam, we have a Mishnah in Moed Katan, Noshim b'Moed ma'anas avaloi metapchis. When somebody passes away, on Chol HaMoed, the women ma'anos, they can eulogize the deceased person together. The women used to clap their hands as a sign of grief on their heart, like this, or on their thigh, or on another part of their body. That they don't do on Chol HaMoed, out of respect to the holiday. Loy metapches. Metapches is on their heart. There was a whole rhythm how they did it. Today it's not done, but it was a whole rhythm how they did it. They do it? Okay. Rabbi Shmuel Leimer, Im hayismuchis lemitam, Sfardim, not Ashkenaz. Rabbi Shmuel Leimer, Im hayismuchis lemitam etapchim. Shmuel says if they were close to the bed with the corpses, then even on Chol HaMoed, the women could pound their hands on their heart. B'Rosh Chodshim b'Chanukah b'Purim. Rosh Chodesh Chanukah Purim, which the Avelis is more lenient than Chol HaMoed. Chol HaMoed is much more serious because it's Yom Tiv. Ma'anais umetapches b'zeh b'zeh. They can eulogize and they can pound their hands on their heart. Ma'anais umetapches, period. They could do both because Chanukah Purim is not as stringent like Chol HaMoed. B'zeh in both cases, Chol HaMoed, Chanukah Purim Rosh Chodesh, loy mekainanais. You don't do mekainus. Mekainus is one woman leads the eulogy and everyone responds after her. That's more intense. That you don't do. Rabbi Bar Huna said on the Gemarah Mishnah Moed Katan, Ein moyed b'fnei Talmud Chacham. Kol sheken Chanukah Purim. This all does not apply to a Talmud Chacham. In other words, the mitzvah of joy on Chol HaMoed does not stand up in the presence of a Talmud Chacham. When he passes away, they can eulogize, they can pound their hearts, and they can even do the kina where one eulogizes as a choir master, as somebody leading it and them following. Kol sheken Chanukah and Purim do not stand in the way of eulogizing a Talmud Chacham. Now, what do we see here? We see that it's Purim, and Simchas Purim is very, very big mitzvah. But a Talmud Chacham, one who passes away, eulogizing him overrides Purim. No. And that's Talmud Torah, not of the whole Klal Yisrael, of one Yachid. So the Gemarah says, Kavod Torah Kamrit. Kavod Torah the Yachid Chamor. Talmud Torah the Yachid Kal. You're confusing two separate halachas. You're talking about the kavod of Torah. Eulogizing Talmud Chacham is the respect for Torah. That, even of an individual, is very serious, and it overrides Purim. And it overrides the Megillah, therefore. But Talmud Torah of Yachid, the learning of an individual, that's more lenient, and therefore, if he has to go read the Megillah, he stops for the Torah and reads the Megillah. In other words, the Pnei Yeshua says, the kavod that's given to a Talmud Chacham during his funeral, you can't do it in a year, in a week, in a month. If you don't do it now, it's going to be in his battle completely, right? The Talmud Torah of a Yachid, you're right, he won't be able to learn now, but he'll learn in an hour, he'll learn in 2 hours. That's how the Pnei Yeshua says it. But the kavod is going to be nullified completely. The Sfas Emes says, beautifully, he says the kavod is for the Torah that he learned his whole life. The Talmud Torah is the next hour. It's a big thing, but it doesn't override Megillah. The kavod is not for the Torah that he learned 1 hour. His whole life is accumulated. That's what the Sfas Emes says. The Talmud Torah of the Yachid, you're just pushing off now until the end. But Mela, there's no proof from this statement of Rabbi Bar Avuna, and we hold on, we maintain what we said, that you're mevatel Talmud Torah in order to go hear the Megillah. Continue tomorrow, Be'ezer Hashem.
Talk about big, how much you learn and how much you know. It's not like how much you learn. Some learn and not.
Yir Shemayim, no? The Yir Shemayim. That's the main thing, yeah. Perek Zayin, chapter 7, verse 10. Hachshtronim b'nei haramachim. Perek Zayin. You see Perek Zayin pasuk Yud, right?
Yeah.
Hachshtronim b'nei haramachim. Shul Diskin, huh? Yeshua married Rachav, yeah.
He had, 8 girls?
Yeshua had girls but no sons. So Chazal say it's because that night he was mevatel tashmish hamita from Yidden. Even one night is a serious thing.
He said about Rachav children became Nevi'im.
Yeah. From Yeshua came out a lot of Nevi'im, all from Rachav. But it wasn't through... Yeah.
So if you could also be a raya from Rachel and Leah, when she gave one night to Leah, it was like
a big thing.
Yeah.
Huh?
Right.
Malamed shalon ba'imka shel halacha. Somebody sent me a picture once, very moving. I got very emotional when I saw it. It was by the last Gaza war, and there was an Israeli soldier near a tank, and he had a Gemarah. He was learning. It was a moving scene. I guess it was some rest that they had, the night before, so to speak, and he was standing there with a Gemarah. It was just a very moving scene. Well, Yeshua, that the Rashi says, Yeshua was part of the siege. He was preparing. He was probably planning the siege or preparing for war. That's why he was there.
War general. He has to inspect anything.
And he said, and he was telling him basically that it's not a time of Milchama. If it's a time of Milchama, so it's Pikuach Nefesh. I guess he felt that Yeshua was too anxious. It could be in the matzah. You have to know, listen. You have the Pikuach Nefesh is doicha everything, right? For general at night is preparing for war, so then it overrides everything. Perhaps he felt that Yeshua was overreacting, so to speak, and he didn't need to prepare at middle of the night. In other words, when you have to fight, fight. When you don't have to fight, you don't have to fight. And therefore, he's going away from the Imka Shel Halacha when it's the other way around. It's the Imka Shel Halacha that will give him the confidence that he needs. Kedei Yidden sollen haben Tashmish, darf man haben the Aren bim Kaimai, mit Schchine bim Kaimai. Weil der Kodesh HaKadoshim, die Kruvim und der Aren ist der Beginne von Zivug. So wenn der Zivug ist in Besamikdash, kann sein als Zivug bei Yidden. Das ist derselbe Indien. Bim Kaimai. Weil der Zivug bei Yidden ist ein Indien von Kedusha. The chibur von a man mit a Frau is the chibur von der Eberste mit Yidden. Yeah. It's the same thing. It's the selbe Heiligkeit. It's the selbe Kedusha. When the Aaron and the Shechina were not bim Kaimai, when the Aaron and the Shechina are away, so there was no Tashmish. And he kept the Aaron in the field. The Malach said, why are you keeping it in the field? It's at night, bring it back so Yidden could be together with their wives. Ja, it's a Gemarah in Erev in Samach Gimel. Erev in. Pere Kadar. Kannst du gucken? Das heißt, da darf man es nicht geüret sein, aber dort...
Aber sie gewinnt, die Chet ist auch gewinnt.
Ja.
Wo sie gewinnt, der Friede geschieht, wie so den Kavitze, das Vater schon nicht gehabt,
Bein Gershon, yeah. They didn't suffer so much. Ah? Because it's for the Christians.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.